Hey there, Brian King. I've been reflecting a lot on one of the dilemmas of fatherhood, which is how do we shape our kids? Who do we encourage them to become? And one of the things that I've noticed really speaks to the heart of one of my foremost values, and you'll probably find this value is very common out there in the leadership and business community. And that value is that every person needs to have a teacher as well as a student. Somebody that you're learning from and somebody that you're teaching. Because it's important to keep your mind fresh, to keep it curious, to keep it growing. But it's also important that you pass that forward, that you support a legacy, that you find a way to be that channel, if you will, for wisdom. It's passing through you from a teacher to a student. And by having your own teacher, not only do you grow, but you remember what it's like to be in that position of being a student, of having those aha moments, of having to be reminded all the time that you don't know everything. That can make you a much more compassionate teacher to the people that you pass things on to. But here's one of the problems that dads run into. They forget to be students. They think they have to know it all. They can sometimes be arrogantly certain of their knowledge. I've seen this far too often. The dads, what are you, stupid? What's the matter with you? Use your head. And in all those comments and all those moments, they're forgetting that there was a time where they didn't know. There was a time where they needed to be told 10 times before it sunk in. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of this topic that I want to discuss. Because those comments that are made to us when we're growing up could quite possibly have been uttered to us by a father or a strong mother who forgot to be a student, or when they were a student, learned that they were a piece of shit. Okay? That unfortunately was the case for my father. He and his siblings were verbally and physically abused. And I didn't find this out till later in life. When he felt comfortable enough to talk to us, kind of man to man as adults and disclose some of these things. But growing up, I really got the impression from my father that he thought I was a piece of shit. When the reality is, he thought that about himself, so that's all he had to pay forward. Think about that for a bit. Now I want to fast forward to my own sons. My oldest son, Zach, is in college now. And for the past couple years, I've seen him kind of dabble in things or expressed interest in certain things, almost like he was checking in with me for approval. Now, let me tell you, when my dad heard I wanted to go into social work, he threw a fit. Because my dad is a tradesman. He learned locksmithing. He worked for the telephone company where he would climb the poles and connect people's service. And when he started his own business, he was installing burglar and fire alarms and so on. And he thought the only way to make a living was to use your hands, to have a trade, have something measurable. And he thought that his money was being flushed down the toilet by supporting me going into social work. Well, fortunately, my mom paid the bills and she saw a future in what I was choosing, so she supported me. And look what I've done with it. But Zach was saying things to me when we were talking about his future. And of course, the powers that be at his high school were kind of pressuring him a little bit to make a decision, so they could help him plan his college experience. And he would say, Dad, I'm thinking of going into social work, or, I'm thinking I'd really like to be a coach. And I would ask him, what makes you think those are things you want to do? Well, because I want to help people like you do. And I would ask him, so is helping people important to you? Yeah, I think I'd like to do that. Okay. Are there other ways you can help people, besides being a social worker and a coach? And long story short, what we determined was that those weren't really his passions, but he wanted to please me. He wanted me to be proud of what he was doing. And this is what I said to him, and this is what I say to his brothers. I said, the best way to honor me is not to replace me, or duplicate me. The best way to honor me is to improve upon me. And a lot of people don't think like that, you know. They don't think that they want their kids to do better than they did. The reality is this. Time moves forward. It unfolds in such a way where things innovate, things improve. Our kids, holy cow, I mean, when you think the Industrial Revolution moved things forward and how much things changed, look at how things have changed since the internet burst onto the scene in the early 90s. How many businesses no longer exist now? How many industries have had to transform or disappear? The world is rapidly changing, and it's the only world they've ever known. They have more resources and more opportunities than we ever did. So I tell my sons, you're living in a different time. You have different resources, more than I ever had. And this generation, this world, has unique problems to solve. When I made the decisions of my life path, it was based on the time in which I lived and the problems that I saw that needed solving. It was also based on my unique talents, what I cared about, what problems I wanted to solve. So based on that contextuality, if that's a word, there's no way for you to be me because the job is taken and the time is different. The time is now. You need to look at what you care about, what problems you want to change, and then go about changing them. Becoming who you need to be to best tackle and eliminate that problem. That's not only how you honor me, that's how you honor the gifts you've been given. And that's how you honor the world in which you live. It's far too easy for us to defend our baggage or defend our unwillingness to improve upon ourselves by saying, well, you know, that's the way I was raised. That's a cop-out. That's a cowardly answer. We are not obligated to repeat the sins of our fathers in our own life. If it doesn't work for you, and here's another important thing I learned. Your father is your first male role model. And if you're raised by a single mom, maybe you have a strong mother figure, maybe you have an uncle, you know, whoever, whatever male you look to, your first male role model is not the one that you are obligated to model. You have the right to say, hey, Anthony, you have the right to say to yourself, you know, looking upon your father, to say, you know what? I forgive you for not being the father I needed. And I forgive myself for expecting you to be more than who you are. That's a powerful statement right there. If you're able to go through that process and actually forgive, the amount of resentment you will have towards that father figure can go poof. And now your heart is freed up to connect with your own child and then ask yourself, okay, who do I need to be in order to help my child realize that he or she is in this world to improve upon what I've done? Because so much of what I do now is based upon the past in which I was born, based upon what I thought was available to me, what resources were available to me. They live in a new world. I cannot command them to model my life perfectly because we simply do not live on the same timeline. The best thing that I can model for my boys, or if you have daughters, to your daughters, is see what the world needs. See what you can do to meet the needs of this world. What do you care about? It doesn't have to be something you're passionate about, something that lights you on fire, you know, the passion that keeps you awake at night. It's nice if you have that, but if you don't have it, that doesn't mean you shouldn't act on your interests. Things you're interested in exploring, problems you're interested in solving. That's enough to get started. Because if you're waiting for that, you know, almighty purpose to come along, it may not. But that doesn't mean your life is wasted because you didn't find a grand sense of purpose or passion. In the meantime, you can be doing a lot of interesting things because you're doing things that you are interested in. So I'd love to hear what you think on this. This is just my take. How often the dads that I encounter in the work that I do, who come to me beaten down by this message that they received by very wounded people that tells them, you're stupid, you're not smart enough, you need to walk it off, you need to be tougher. That's the bullshit they were fed by their own parent. That's their past. And they're trying to pay it forward to you because it's all they have to give. They haven't healed it. They haven't improved upon it. And now they want you to take that nice big box of shit and carry it with you for the rest of your life. That's not your destiny. Your destiny is to say, I forgive you for not being the father I needed. And I forgive me for expecting you to be more than who you are. I have sought out other male role models, and they're everywhere. Some of them may not even be alive anymore. Socrates, Leo Buscaglia, Jack Canfield. I could go on. But there are so many people, so many men whose thoughts are more along the line of generosity and compassion and nonviolence. You can learn from them. And you can practice those values and see which ones really fit, which ones feel at home, and practice them with the people in your lives. See how effective they are. And when you find that suit of those values and beliefs that really feel like they fit like a glove, then you start engaging your family, you start engaging your wife, you start engaging your children, and you become the best you that you can be, and you let them know, I'm not trying to duplicate myself in my relationship with you. I'm trying to make sure that I prepare you sufficiently to go out into the world and improve upon everything that I've done. So the best way to honor me is to just let your light shine as bright as it possibly can. And don't worry about me, I'll be fine. I will be proud of you so long as you're out there following what interests you. If you happen to find your passion, that's great. But if you're out there solving problems you care about, I couldn't be more proud. So those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. If you know any other dads that could really benefit from this message, feel free to share it with them. In fact, ask yourself this question. Who can I share this with that would really benefit from this message? And make sure that they see it. Thanks for tuning in, Anthony. I really appreciate it. This is Brian King. Have an awesome day. We'll talk again soon.